CreepyCorner stories.
Hey folks, before we dive into tonight's stories, I want to give a huge thank you to Kieran Tibbetts, Lisa Collin, 85, and Dark Impulse for supporting the channel and being amazing members. So if you enjoy what you hear tonight, grab your headphones, turn off the lights, and let's step into another amazing night. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. I suggested a dark web user from a chat room to live next to me. He keeps waving at my window in the middle of the night. Last night I recorded him, and when I saw it back, I was truly horrified. Yo, so I wasn't planning on posting this, like, ever, but I genuinely don't know what else to do at this point. I haven't slept properly in 3 nights. I'm starting to see shadows move when there's no light source. This is real. Way too real. If you're expecting some clickbait ARG thing, or like a spooky riddle with a clever ending, this isn't that. This is my life now, and it's getting worse by the hour. It all started a few months back, during one of those insomnia-fueled spirals where you just stay up doom-scrolling TikTok and Reddit until you forget what daylight looks like. You know that mood. Anyway, I ended up in a Discord server that I'm pretty sure wasn't supposed to be accessible unless you had some sort of invite code. It was called SyncNet, not like sink as in the kitchen one, more like you're sinking into something. The banner was this distorted photo of Times Square, except all the people were blurred out like ghosts, and the lights were glitched like melting. The chats were split by colors instead of names. Red room, blue dive, gray skin, amber thoughts. It was artsy and weird, but weirdly active. Not your average ghost town server. And unlike all the other freak show corners of the internet, the people here didn't just post memes or junk links. They talked about life, about strange sightings. Some of them shared pictures that looked like they were taken from inside places like IKEA, but with no one in them. One guy claimed he lived under an abandoned amusement park in Japan. Another girl said she rented an Airbnb in Sweden that had one-way mirrors and microphones inside the showerhead. Creepy, yeah, but nothing too crazy. At least not until I met Gullwing. That was his handle. No avatar, just a black circle with a white dot in the middle, like a pupil. I first saw him in the gray skin room, where people mostly talked about urban exploring and unreal neighbors, whatever the hell that meant. He replied to one of my comments about how the house next to mine had been vacant for 2 years, joking that I should move someone in. Here's exactly what he said. I'll do it. I don't take up much space. I thought it was a joke, obviously. Like, internet strangers, right? But something about the way he typed creeped me out. The period before the smiley face. Who does that? I replied with a joke. Lol, go ahead. Rent's free. He sent a thumbs up emoji. That was it. Now, here's where it gets messed up. The house next to me, this old 70s style ranch with sun-faded siding, had seriously been empty for years. The grass was up to my knees, windows dusty as hell. Everyone assumed it was one of those homes caught in probate limbo or owned by someone out of state. I never saw a single person go in or out. But 2 days after that chat, I woke up to the sound of dragging, like something heavy being pulled across the sidewalk. It was 3:41 a.m., and I only remember the time because my phone lit up with a push notification from the Citizen app right as I sat up. Suspicious person spotted near Elm, and argon. That's my street. I looked out my window, and the house next door had one porch light flickering. It had never been on before, and in the beam of that yellow light, there he was, a guy in a gray hoodie, no visible face, just standing there, not looking at me, just at the ground, holding what looked like a shopping cart full of junk. Okay, that alone was weird, but I figured maybe the owners finally sold the place or rented it out. I almost convinced myself of that until the next night. 2:14 a.m. I hear tapping, like fingers drumming on glass. I live in a single-story house, and my bed is right up against the window. I've got blackout curtains, so I can't see out unless I pull them aside. I waited, heart racing. Another tap, then a soft squeak, like the sound glass makes when someone runs their nails across it lightly. I slowly peeked out, just barely moving the curtain. He was standing right there, in the grass, 2 feet away, staring at my window, and when I looked out, he didn't flinch. He just slowly raised his hand and waved, one of those tiny finger-only waves, like a kid seeing someone across a classroom. I jumped back, heart slamming. I didn't sleep at all that night. By the third night, I was like, alright, this is enough. I set up my phone on a little tripod in the window and left it recording, just to prove to myself I wasn't being paranoid, just to get it on video. Maybe I could post it somewhere and have internet detectives figure it out. The next morning, I checked the footage, and bro, what I saw, I had to pause it like 5 times just to breathe. At 2:26 a.m., the camera catches motion in the yard. He steps into frame. Same hoodie, but this time he's carrying something, a small mirror. He stands in my yard, directly in front of my window, and starts talking, not loud enough for the mic to catch, just murmuring. And then he places the mirror down on the grass, perfectly upright, and then he crouches and waits for 2 hours, just squatting there, in silence, staring at his own reflection. At one point, he looks directly into my camera lens, doesn't smile, doesn't move, just stares, like he knew I'd be watching later. Then he stands up, waves again, toward the mirror this time, and walks away. I swear to God, I haven't touched the mirror. It's still out there on my lawn. I can see it from my bedroom window. Every time I try to go outside to throw it away, something stops me. My chest tightens. I feel like if I touch it, he'll know. I haven't posted the video yet. I don't even know if I should. But here's the kicker. Last night, I went into that Discord again. SyncNet. The entire server was gone. Not just renamed, not just deleted. It's like it never existed. But Goldwing, that guy, he DM'd me an hour ago. The message was simple. Thank you for the invitation. I'll update with part 2 if I make it through the night. Let me know if you've ever heard of this dude, or if this sounds like something familiar, because right now, I don't even know if I'm safe. I didn't reply to his message. I just stared at it until my screen dimmed and my reflection replaced the text. That stupid smiley face burned into my vision. I told myself the same thing over and over. It's a troll. It's coincidence. You're feeding into it. That's what you're supposed to think. That's how you survive the internet. You rationalize until the fear dulls. But fear doesn't dull when it's watching you. The next morning, I went to work like normal. Starbucks drive-thru on Argonne. Same order I've had for 3 years. Tall iced Americano, no sweetener. The barista smiled and said, "See you tomorrow." And for the first time, That sentence made my stomach drop. I kept checking my mirrors on the way to the office. Every red light felt longer than usual. Every pedestrian looked like they might turn their head a little too fast. At lunch, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No text. Just a photo. It was my car, taken from behind, at a red light. I pulled over and threw up in a McDonald's parking lot. I didn't even make it to the trash can. Just opened the door and let it happen. People staring like I was drunk at noon. I remember thinking, this is it. This is where it starts. Because whoever took that photo wasn't guessing. They weren't searching. They were already there. I deleted the image. Then I deleted the entire thread. Then I turned my phone off. Like that would help. When I got home, the mirror was gone from my lawn. Instead, there were footprints, bare feet, leading from the fence line up to my window, then back toward the house next door. The grass was pressed flat, like someone had knelt there for a long time. I stood frozen on my porch, keys still in my hand, listening to the cicadas scream like they were warning me. I didn't go inside right away. I circled the house first, checked every window, every lock. Everything looked untouched, too untouched, like a staged room in a furniture store. No signs of forced entry, no broken glass, no chaos, just quiet. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with all the lights on, TV playing some random Netflix reality show I wasn't even watching. At 1:03 a.m., my phone turned itself back on. I swear to you, I didn't touch it. A notification popped up from Instagram. A new account followed me. Username, @gold.w1ng. No profile picture. 0 posts, 0 followers. Just me. Then the DMs came. Not fast, not spammy. Slow, thoughtful. Like whoever was typing wanted to savor it. You leave for work at 7:18. You check your phone at red lights, but not stop signs. You sleep on your left side when you're scared. I blocked the account. It reappeared under a different name. Blocked again. Another. Like cutting heads off something that doesn't bleed. Around 2:30 a.m., my doorbell rang. Just once. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The sound echoed through the house like it had hands. 30 seconds passed. Then another ring. Longer this time. Pressed. My Ring app didn't send a notification. That's when I realized the power was out. I grabbed my phone and used the flashlight, moving room to room, checking corners like I'd seen people do in movies. Every shadow felt heavier than it should have been. When I reached the front door, I saw something taped to it. A printed Google Maps screenshot. My street. My house circled in red. The house next door circled in blue. Written underneath in thick black marker. Closer than you think. I didn't call the cops. Don't ask me why. I think part of me knew how insane it would sound. A guy from the internet moved next door and waves at me. That's not an emergency. That's a shrug and a report number. Instead, I packed a bag and left. Drove 3 hours to my cousin's place, outside Chicago. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. Didn't post. Didn't check in. I thought disappearing would reset things. It didn't. The second night there, my cousin asked me why I'd been standing in the backyard so late. I told him I hadn't. He said he saw someone by the fence around 3 a.m. Thought it was me, just staring at the house like I was waiting for something to come out of it. He laughed when he said it. I didn't. I checked my phone. There was a new video saved to my camera roll. 37 seconds long. No timestamp. No location data. The footage was shaky, filmed from inside a car. It showed my cousin's house, the backyard, the fence. Then the camera zoomed in on the window of the guest room, my room. Camera stopped. The screen went black, and then text appeared, white on black, like a subtitle. You invite people into your life so easily. I locked myself in the bathroom and slid down the wall until the floor felt like it might swallow me. My ears rang. My hands shook so badly I couldn't hold the phone. I kept thinking about how calm the messages were. No threats, no anger, just observation. Like I was an experiment. I didn't stay in Chicago. I didn't stay anywhere. Hotels, motels, Airbnbs. I paid cash, used fake names, turned off Wi-Fi. It didn't matter. Every place started to feel watched. Every reflection felt wrong. Mirrors especially. I avoided them, covered them with towels, slept with lights on, slept with knives nearby, slept for maybe 20 minutes at a time. Then the news broke. A body was found in the house next to mine. They said it was a transient. No ID, no records, no known address. The anchor said it like it was nothing, like a statistic. They showed aerial footage of my street, blurred out, police cars lining the curb. I recognized the yard, the grass where the mirror had been. The reporter said neighbors claimed they'd seen someone standing in that yard late at night for weeks, waving at passing cars, waving at houses, waving at nothing. The body had been dead for months. I dropped my phone. I think you already know what that means. I think you already know why my hands won't stop shaking as I type this. Because if the body was already there, then who the hell have I been talking to? Part 3 is worse. I don't even know if I should post it. But if something happens to me, I need there to be a record. Somewhere. Anywhere. I can hear tapping again as I write this. Not on glass. On the wall behind me. I didn't turn around when I heard the tapping on the wall. I already knew what I'd see if I did. The sound wasn't frantic. It wasn't aggressive. It was measured. Patient. Like someone knocking from the inside of a coffin, counting time instead of begging for air. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, phone in my hand, watching the battery tick down 1% at a time. The room smelled like old cleaner and damp carpet. Somewhere outside, a semi roared past on the highway, the sound stretching and warping until it almost sounded like a scream. Almost. The tapping stopped. That was worse, because when it stopped, my phone vibrated. A new message, from a number I didn't recognize. No preview, just the vibration. I opened it. A live location pin. Not mine. His. The pin blinked on a map I didn't recognize at first. Then the label loaded. Motel Blue Star, room 214. That was my room. Before I could process that, another message came through. A video, still uploading. The thumbnail was dark, grainy. I almost didn't tap it. I should have thrown the phone. I should have smashed it under my heel and walked into the night and never looked back. I tapped it. The video was filmed from outside the motel, from the parking lot. I recognized my car immediately. The dent on the rear bumper, the parking sticker I'd forgotten to peel off. The camera moved slowly, deliberately, toward my door. I could hear breathing behind the lens. Calm, controlled. Then the video stopped. Text appeared, just like before. You keep running into yourself. The bathroom mirror was covered with a towel, but I could feel it behind me, like it was watching through fabric, like reflections don't need glass if they know you well enough. The tapping started again, closer this time. Not the wall, the door, not knocking, scratching. I left everything, phone, bag, wallet. I kicked the bathroom window out and climbed into the cold, slicing my arm on the frame. and not feeling it until later. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs went numb, until the motel lights disappeared behind trees and billboards advertising pancakes and lawyers. I ended up at a 24-hour McDonald's off the interstate. Fluorescent lights, families, a cop in the corner sipping coffee. I sat in a booth shaking so hard the table rattled. I thought, this is safe. It was stupid, but I thought it. My phone was already there, on the table, face down. I hadn't brought it with me. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I stared at the grease stain shaped like a country I couldn't name and waited for the punchline. The screen lit up. A group chat. Participants. Gullwing. Gullwing_2. Gullwing.archive. New messages flooded in, overlapping, like voices talking over each other. We like public places. People don't see patterns when they're chewing. You look thinner under stress. I stood up so fast, the booth slammed back. The cop glanced over, annoyed. I walked straight to him, opened my mouth, and my phone buzzed again. A photo. The cop, taken from behind, standing exactly where he was now. Text underneath. They don't believe until it's inconvenient. I left. Again. I don't remember how I got to the bus station. I don't remember buying the ticket. I only remember sitting in the back row, pressing my forehead to the cold glass, watching my reflection warp with every street light we passed. It didn't move when I moved. It lagged, just a fraction of a second. I started to understand then. Not fully, but enough to feel sick. This wasn't a person following me. It was a process. That night, while the bus hummed and strangers slept around me, I finally opened one of the links he'd been sending, the ones I'd been too afraid to touch. It routed through layers of addresses that looked like mistakes, letters where numbers should be, symbols that made my phone heat up in my hand. The page loaded. A video player. Title: Neighbor Cam 01. The footage was live. It showed my old bedroom, my bed, my window. Someone was sitting on the mattress, not facing the camera, facing the window, wearing my hoodie, the one I'd lost weeks ago. They raised a hand and waved slowly at the glass. The viewer count climbed. A chat scrolled beside it. Emojis, comments, jokes, people asking where it was filmed. Someone donated money. The alert sound chimed cheerfully. I scrolled down. Description: invitation-based residency project. Subject-initiated contact. Consent implied. I threw up into a plastic bag and didn't stop until my throat felt like it was tearing. The camera switched angles. Now it showed the street, the house next door, the yard, empty. Then movement. Multiple figures stepped into frame, one by one, all wearing variations of the same gray hoodie. Different heights, different builds, all waving, all looking directly into the lens. Text scrolled across the bottom of the screen, slow and deliberate. You don't invite one of us, you invite the idea. The bus hit a bump, and my phone slipped from my hand. When I picked it up, the stream was gone. The site was gone, like it had never existed. But my reflection in the black screen was smiling. I know what you're thinking, that I'm losing it. That stress broke something in my brain, and now I'm stitching nightmares together and calling them memories. I wish that were true. I wish this was just a story I could stop telling. Because an hour ago, while I was typing this in a library 3 states away, a librarian tapped my shoulder. She smiled politely and said someone had left something for me at the front desk. It was a small mirror, and taped to the back in familiar handwriting were 4 words: I don't think I'm the one writing this anymore. I didn't touch the mirror. I left it on the library desk, like it was a live animal, backed away slowly, and walked out without saying a word to anyone. The automatic doors slid open and shut behind me, sealing that place like it had never existed. Outside, the sky was the color of dirty cotton, heavy and low, pressing down on everything. The parking lot was half empty, a couple loading groceries, a kid screaming in a cart. Normal sounds, normal world. I sat in my car and stared straight ahead until my vision tunneled. Then the mirror slid off the desk. I didn't see it happen, obviously. I wasn't there anymore. But I know it slid because when I checked my phone, a different phone, one I bought with cash that morning, brand new, no accounts logged in, there was a notification waiting, a security camera clip from inside the library. The mirror didn't fall. It turned on its own. The clip ended with a single frame held too long, like punctuation. My reflection, standing behind the camera, smiling. That's when I understood something that broke me in a way fear hadn't yet. They weren't chasing me to hurt me. They weren't hunting me. They were curating me, studying how I reacted under pressure, testing how much of myself I'd abandon if it meant staying alive. I drove until the gaslight came on, ended up in a small town that barely showed up on Google Maps. One main road, a Dollar General, a closed movie theater with peeling posters still advertising films from years ago. I rented a room above a laundromat from a guy who didn't ask for ID and didn't look me in the eye. The room had no mirrors. I thought that meant something. The first night, I dreamed I was watching myself sleep, not from above, from across the room. I could hear my own breathing, slightly out of sync. When I woke up, my jaw ached like I'd been clenching it for hours. There was a smear of dried blood on the inside of my cheek. I don't remember biting myself. The second day, I tried to go analog. No phone, no screens. I bought a notebook and a pen and started writing everything down by hand. Like if I documented it properly, it would stop being slippery. I wrote dates, times, street names. I wrote my full name over and over just to see it stay the same. That night, the notebook was already full. Not my handwriting. Same pen, same ink, different pressure, different rhythm. Whole pages filled with observations about me. Things I hadn't written, things I hadn't noticed. Subject avoids mirrors, but seeks reflections in glass. Subject lies to self about wanting to be found. Subject is more cooperative when isolated. At the bottom of the last page was a crude drawing of a house I didn't recognize at first. Then I did. It was the movie theater. I went anyway. I don't know why. Curiosity, exhaustion, the slow erosion of self-preservation. The theater doors were unlocked, which they shouldn't have been. Inside, it smelled like dust and old sugar. The lobby lights flickered weakly, powered by something that hummed behind the walls. One screen was lit. Just one. I stood in the aisle as the film played. No sound at first, just footage. Security cameras, homes, bedrooms, kitchens, people sleeping, people staring at their phones, people standing at windows, all of them waving. The audio kicked in suddenly, loud enough to make me flinch. A voiceover, calm, friendly, almost instructional. You think this is about fear. It isn't. Fear is loud. Fear is messy. We prefer familiarity. The footage shifted to something recent. Me, at the McDonald's, at the bus station, in the library. Angles I couldn't explain. Distances that didn't make sense. Then the screen cut to a live feed. The room I was standing in. From behind me, I felt the presence before I heard it. A weight in the air. A subtle change in pressure, like altitude sickness without the height. Someone stood close enough that I could smell them. Soap. Something metallic underneath. He didn't touch me. He leaned in and whispered, not into my ear, but into the space just beside it. I was the first one you noticed. I didn't turn around. Others noticed you before that, he continued, conversational. You just weren't ready. The screen showed my face now. Pale. Eyes too wide. Mouth moving slightly, like I was practicing words before saying them. We don't move into houses, he said. We move into patterns. Neighborhoods are just where patterns get lazy. I finally turned. There wasn't just one person behind me. There were several. Different faces, same eyes, same stillness, all standing just a little too close, like they didn't quite understand personal space because they'd never needed it. One of them stepped forward and held something out to me. My driver's license, updated, new address, new photo. The photo was of me, but better, calmer, scented, like someone who slept at night. Continuity matters, he said. When people disappear, it causes noise, questions, grief. Another voice chimed in from behind him, cheerful. You don't want to hurt anyone, right? The screen behind them changed again. My cousin's house, the barista at Starbucks, laughing with a co-worker, the cop from the McDonald's. Red boxes appeared around their faces, one by one. I understood the offer, not death, delegation. I don't remember agreeing. I don't remember shaking hands or signing anything. I remember sitting in the theater seat while they talked around me, about me, through me. I remember the feeling of something loosening inside my chest, like a knot finally being undone. I woke up back in the room above the laundromat. The notebook was blank. My phone was on the table. A notification waited. Draft post saved. Title already filled in. The cursor blinked patiently. Outside, someone was waving up at my window. I waved back without thinking, and it felt natural. There's a strange calm that settles in once you stop trying to escape yourself. I didn't notice it right away. It crept in quietly, like dust on a shelf. You stopped cleaning because no one visits anymore. My hands stopped shaking. My thoughts stopped racing. The fear didn't disappear. It organized itself, filed neatly into categories, manageable, useful. I stayed in that room above the laundromat for a while, long enough to learn the rhythm of the machines downstairs, long enough to know which footsteps on the stairs belonged to which tenant without looking, long enough to realize that no one ever knocked on my door by accident. People only came when they were supposed to. The first was a kid, early 20s, eyes sunk too deep into his face from lack of sleep, phone clutched like a life raft. He said he'd been following a forum link that kept changing URLs, said someone told him I might understand. I let him sit. I listened. I nodded at the right moments. I watched how his shoulders relaxed when I mirrored his posture, when my breathing synced with his. He asked if I was scared. I told him the truth. I was, I said, before I knew where to stand. He didn't understand that. Not yet. But he would. That night, I checked the notebook again, still blank. But when I closed it, I caught a reflection in the dark cover. My face, steady, composed. Someone I would have trusted if I'd met them before all this. I practiced smiling in the low light until it stopped feeling like practice. Messages started coming in without accounts attached to them. Not texts, not emails, just prompts, locations, times, suggestions framed as observations. You pass as harmless better when you hesitate before speaking. People like to feel chosen. Windows are invitations, even when they're closed. I learned fast, faster than I ever learned anything before. Like this was what my brain had been waiting for all along. Sometimes, late at night, I'd sit by the window and watch the street. Cars passing, screens glowing inside them, faces lit from below, hollowed out, searching. Every so often, someone would look up and meet my eyes. Just for a second, I'd raise my hand and give a small wave. Most people waved back without thinking. That's the part no one talks about. How automatic it is. How human. I moved again eventually. Not because I had to, but because stagnation attracts attention. I picked a place people pass through and don't remember. Near an airport. Near a mall that's half empty, except during holidays. Familiar brands. Comfortable lies. I blended. I always blend. Sometimes I scroll through old social media on public Wi-Fi. See posts from people who vaguely resemble who I used to be. Complaints, jokes, photos of food cooling on tables no one's sitting at anymore. I don't comment. I don't like leaving fingerprints where they don't belong, but I do watch, and sometimes someone watches back. They message me late, ask questions framed as jokes, test the water. I recognize the signs immediately now, the insomnia, the curiosity, the subtle pride in thinking they found something hidden. I never push, I just wait. There are mirrors everywhere if you know how to angle things. Phone screens, store windows, blackened TVs in motel rooms. People spend so much time staring into them, trying to see something better looking back, something else. Every once in a while, I catch my reflection and it lags just a fraction of a second behind me. That's how I know I'm doing it right. You might think this is where I confess, where I warn you, where I say, don't click strange links or don't talk to strangers online. That's not how this works. Warnings are loud. They make people feel clever for ignoring them. This is quieter, more personal, because if you've read this far, if you felt that tightness in your chest at certain parts, if you checked your window or your reflection without realizing why, then something in you already leaned forward. You didn't stop. You kept reading. That's all it ever takes. Someone, somewhere, is waving right now. Not because they're trapped. Not because they're lost. Because they're home. And if you look up at the right moment, you might catch yourself waving back. I record paranormal videos on YouTube. I was just taken in by a new foster family from the dark web. We have to follow a horrifying set of rules. What's up, guys? So, yeah, I record paranormal videos on YouTube. Not gonna plug my channel. This isn't for clout. This is more of a warning. If you've ever thought about going too deep into the internet, or if you've ever been tempted to say yes to something shady out of desperation, I hope this story sticks in your brain like it's stuck in mine. A little background. I'm 17, been in the foster system since I was 10. Nothing crazy dramatic happened. I wasn't in some tragic movie plot. My mom was hooked on pills. Dad bailed early. CPS took me out when things got too unstable. Since then, I've bounced through group homes, some halfway decent, others where you'd sleep with your shoes on just in case. But the one thing that's kept me sane all these years, my camera. My old Canon T5i that I picked up from a pawn shop in Queens. I started uploading creepy videos when I was around 15. Urban legends, graveyard explorations, haunted hotel bathrooms, stuff like that. Nothing went viral or anything, but I built a small following, like 12,000 subs, enough to make me feel like I mattered. Anyway, fast forward to about 3 weeks ago. It started with a comment. I posted a video where I snuck into this abandoned summer camp in upstate New York. Totally messed up vibes, like Blair Witch meets Friday the 13th. Lotta rotting cabins, one that still had sleeping bags zipped shut, like someone just vanished mid-snore. But this one comment stood out. "You've got the gift. Message me. We have a family for you. Huge foster nest, DW. At first, I thought it was a troll. DW, as in dark web? Really? Lame. But the account had zero karma, zero history, and the name, Foster Nest, sounded almost professional, like some sketchy startup or one of those evil NGOs from a sci-fi movie. But curiosity got me. They sent me a link. It wasn't a regular site. You had to use a Tor browser to even load it. It was styled like some early 2000s social worker portal, with bios and placement availability, and even rules of conduct. But everything was slightly off. The families had profile pics, but the faces were blurred, not like for privacy, but because the photos looked corrupted, wrong, limbs too long, eyes not matching. There was a couple labeled the Holloways. Their bio read, "We love nurturing young creatives. Our home is quiet, structured, and disciplined. All we ask is you follow the rules." And they had room for one. Guess who they picked? Now, I know what you're thinking. Why the hell would I go along with this? Well, remember how I said I'd been bounced around a lot? No one wants a 17-year-old boy with bags under his eyes and an online ghost hunting hobby. And these Holloways, they didn't care. They said they loved my work. They'd even watched my videos. They arranged everything. A black car picked me up in Manhattan. No logos, just sleek as hell. The guy driving didn't talk. He wore mirrored shades the entire 5-hour drive. I watched the city disappear behind us, then towns, then even phone signal. My last ping was outside a gas station in Vermont. The rest? No idea. Off-grid. We pulled into their driveway just as the sun was setting. Imagine a farmhouse, but cleaner. Too clean. Perfect white paint. No insects on the windows. Not even a mailbox. The trees around it looked dead, but standing. Like petrified wood or something out of a nightmare Tim Burton never finished. The front door creaked open on its own before I could knock. Out stepped Mr. Holloway. And if Uncanny Valley had a dad, this guy was it. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and his handshake was too cold, too firm. Mrs. Holloway looked like someone who would offer you a cup of cocoa and ask you how you felt about knives. Sweet, but wrong. Inside, minimalist, spotless and quiet. Like no ambient sound quiet, no fridge hum, no clocks ticking. The lights didn't buzz. I didn't even hear wind through the windows. Then they handed me the rules. Not on paper, not even printed. They had it laminated, glossy, titled in bold, "Rules for our new family member. Failure to follow results in immediate removal." I've memorized them now. Here's what they said. Do not leave your room after 11:11 p.m., even if we knock, especially if we knock. Do not speak to the mirror in the upstairs hallway. It lies. If the basement door is open, shut it, even if someone is calling from it. We eat together, every meal, no exceptions. If you're not hungry, pretend. Never film us. never upload inside footage, but we encourage paranormal videos. They keep the cycle alive. That last one messed with me. The cycle? They smiled like it was a joke. I unpacked in my new room. Clean sheets, neutral grey walls, one window, no curtain, no lock. But what really threw me off was the desk. Sitting right there in the corner was a brand new camera, way better than my Canon. 4K mounted mic, labeled with a sticky note. We love your content. Keep filming. Just remember, Rule 5. I went to bed that night with my old hoodie wrapped around my head, trying to drown out the silence. At exactly 11:11 p.m., something tapped on my door. Not a knock, a tap, like one finger, rhythmically, 3 times. Then again. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Eventually it stopped, but not before I swear I heard someone whisper, "You're gonna love it here." The first morning in that house, I woke up to the sound of breathing, not mine. It was slow, controlled, patient, like someone standing just out of sight, making sure I was still alive. I stayed perfectly still, eyes closed, counting seconds in my head the way they teach you in group therapy when panic hits. 10 seconds passed, 20, 30. Then I smelled coffee, not drifting under the door, not faint, strong, fresh, like someone had opened a Starbucks inside my skull. When I finally opened my eyes, my room looked the same, but felt different. The air was heavier, like the house had exhaled overnight and hadn't bothered to inhale again. My phone, which I'd left charging, had no signal, not even emergency bars, just the time, blinking 9:02 a.m. and a notification banner that vanished the second I touched it. I stepped into the hallway. The mirror. I forgot about the rule for half a second, and that half second almost broke me. The upstairs hallway was longer than it had been the night before. I know that sounds dumb, but I swear it stretched, like a bad hallway in a dream. And at the end of it was the mirror, tall, antique, framed in dark wood carved with shapes that looked like vines, until you stared too long and realized they were hands. I didn't speak. I didn't even look directly at it, but it moved anyway. My reflection lagged. Just a fraction of a second, enough to notice, enough to make my stomach drop, like I'd missed a step on the stairs. I walked past it fast, heart pounding, repeating Rule 2 in my head like a prayer. Breakfast was already on the table. Eggs, toast, bacon, perfectly arranged, like a stock photo. Mr. and Mrs. Holloway sat across from each other, hands folded, smiling like they'd been paused there all night. "Good morning," Mrs. Holloway said, cheerful, syrupy. "Sit. Eat." Rule 4. I sat. I wasn't hungry, not even close. My stomach felt like it was full of wet cement, but I picked up my fork and ate anyway, chewing slowly, forcing it down. The food tasted wrong. Not rotten, not poisoned, just empty. Like chewing texture without flavor, like eating something that had once been food, but had forgotten how. They watched me the entire time, not in a creepy way. Worse, like I was a TV show they'd already seen, and they were waiting for their favorite part. "Your channel," Mr. Holloway said suddenly. "Your engagement has improved." I froze. "What?" He slid an iPad across the table. My YouTube dashboard was open, new subscribers, thousands of them, comments flooding in, likes, shares, clips of my old videos reposted on TikTok, Instagram Reels, even Twitter, accounts with no profile pictures, usernames made of numbers and symbols, all saying the same thing. Keep going. Don't stop filming. We see you. My last upload, one I'd filmed weeks ago, had been edited. New audio layered underneath, a low hum, something like chanting, just barely audible. "I didn't upload this," I said. Mrs. Holloway smiled wider. "You didn't have to." They showed me the basement after breakfast. Not inside, just the door. It was at the end of a narrow hallway, painted a different shade of white than the rest of the house. Cleaner, newer. The handle was warm, like someone had just touched it. "Sometimes," Mr. Holloway said casually, "the door opens on its own." "And?" I asked. "And you will close it," he said, "no matter what you hear." From the other side of the door, something scratched, slow, deliberate, like fingernails dragging across wood. I didn't ask what was down there. I didn't want the answer. That afternoon, they encouraged me to film, not inside the house, never inside, but outside, in the nearby town. They drove me there themselves, 10 minutes down a road that didn't appear on Google Maps. The town looked normal at first glance, too normal. A McDonald's with a flickering sign, a Starbucks with no customers, a playground with brand new equipment and no children. People stared, not curious stares, not suspicious, recognition. Everywhere I went, heads turned, phones lifted. Someone whispered my username out loud as I passed, like they were testing how it tasted. I filmed anyway. Old habit, comfort. The camera felt like a shield. That's when I noticed something in the footage. Behind me, in every reflection, windows, car doors, even the glossy menu board at McDonald's. The same man, tall, thin, smiling too wide, standing just out of frame in real life, but always perfectly centered in the video. I spun around. Nothing. The comments on the live preview started popping up instantly. "He's close now. Don't turn around next time. We like him." I shut the camera off. That night, I forgot Rule 1. At 11:11 p.m. exactly, the knocking started again. Louder this time. Not tapping. Knocking. Firm. Confident. Like whoever was on the other side knew I'd answer eventually. "Open up," a voice said. My voice. Perfect. Same tone. Same nervous crack when it said my name. "I know you're awake," it continued. "They said you'd be scared. They said you wouldn't listen. But I'm you. I'm the path they didn't take." I backed away from the door, shaking so hard my teeth clicked. The doorknob turned. Not all the way, just enough to rattle. Then came the scratching, from inside my room, from the walls, from the ceiling, like the house itself was trying to get in. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then, from the basement, muffled but clear, "Help me." A different voice, younger, crying. I didn't sleep. The next morning, there was a new rule added to the laminated list. Rule 6. If you see someone who looks like you, know you didn't. At the bottom, in handwriting that wasn't there before, was a note. Your audience is growing. Don't disappoint them. I'm starting to understand something now. This isn't a foster home. It's a production house. And I think I'm not the first kid they've had. I stopped trusting time after that. Not metaphorically. Literally. My phone said it was Tuesday for 3 days straight. The YouTube Studio app showed uploads I didn't remember making, scheduled for times when I knew I'd been awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe. My body felt exhausted in a way sleep couldn't fix, like something else was using me when I wasn't looking. And the worst part? My channel was exploding. I'm talking front page Reddit threads, reaction videos, commentary channels, breaking down my clips frame by frame. Someone on TikTok slowed one of my recent videos and circled a face in the background I hadn't noticed while filming. A face that looked like me, but wrong. Eyes too far apart. Smile held a second too long. People loved it. They thought it was an ARG. They thought it was genius. The Holloways were pleased. They didn't say it outright, but everything about them changed. Mr. Holloway started humming while he cleaned. Mrs. Holloway began leaving my door open at night. Just a crack, like she wanted to make sure I was still there in the morning. Still useful. That was when I noticed the cameras, not the ones you expect. No obvious lenses, no red lights. They were hidden in reflections, in the chrome of the sink, in the black glass of the TV when it was off. If I moved too fast, I could see my own reflection fracture into multiple angles, each one watching from a different direction. I tested it once. I waved at the microwave door. The reflection waved back a half-second late. I needed proof. Real proof. Not vibes. Not paranoia. So I broke Rule 3. It wasn't intentional at first. I was walking past the basement hallway when I noticed the door wasn't just open. It was inviting. Wide, dark, with a soft yellow light spilling out, like it wanted me to come closer. The air smelled different down there. Metallic. Old. Like a hospital hallway that had been abandoned mid-shift. And there were voices, not crying this time, talking, casual, bored. I crept closer, heart slamming so hard I thought it might give me away. The steps descended slowly, each one creaking under my weight, like it was tattling on me. The walls were lined with framed photos, kids, dozens of them, all different ages, all holding cameras, all smiling the same stiff, rehearsed smile. And every single frame had a YouTube logo etched into the corner, usernames underneath. Some were familiar, some were old, really old, like channels I remembered from years ago that had just stopped uploading one day. Paranormal vloggers, storytime creators, true horror narrators who vanished without explanation. At the bottom of the stairs, I saw the room. It wasn't a basement, it was a studio. Lights, mics, green screens, racks of hard drives stacked floor to ceiling, each labeled with a name and a number. Some had dates, some just said things like final cut or retirement. In the center was a table, and strapped to the chair at that table was a boy who looked exactly like me. Same hair, same scar on the chin from when I fell off my bike at 12. Same terrified eyes darting around the room, except he was older, thinner, and his mouth was sewn shut with black thread. Not fresh, not bloody, just permanent. He looked at me and smiled. I don't remember screaming. I remember waking up in my bed. My door was closed, locked from the outside. On my desk was a USB drive. A sticky note on it read, "Every creator needs an archive." I waited until night, until the house settled into its fake silence. Then I plugged the drive into my laptop. Folders, hundreds of them, each one named after a channel. Inside were raw files, unedited footage, kids crying between takes, kids asking when they could go home, kids being coached on how to react, how to scream, how to sound believable when something paranormal happened. Some of them talked about their foster families too. Different names, different houses, same rules, same smiles, same end. The last file I opened was labeled with my username. Inside was a video I hadn't recorded yet. It showed me sitting at that table in the basement, hands shaking, reading from a script taped to the wall. "I want to thank my foster family," future me said, eyes hollow. "They gave me everything." The video cut to black. Then text appeared. "Season finale performs best with authenticity." The knocking started again at 11:11 p.m., but this time it wasn't at my door. It was under my bed, slow, rhythmic, patient, and a voice whispered, soft and excited, "You're almost ready. I'm running out of time. I didn't plan the escape." That's the part people always expect, the montage moment, where the scared kid turns clever, outsmarts the monsters, finds a hidden key. No, what actually happened was uglier, sloppier. I didn't decide to run because I was brave. I decided to run because I realized I was already gone. I woke up that morning with dried dirt under my fingernails and mud crusted into the cuffs of my jeans. My shoes were by the door, soaked, like I'd been outside in the rain. My camera battery was dead, even though I hadn't touched it. My body ached in places that felt used, not injured, like I'd been repeating the same motion for hours. Downstairs, Mrs. Holloway was humming. She was chopping vegetables with perfect rhythm, blade hitting wood in the steady tempo that synced with the thudding in my skull. When she looked up, her eyes flicked to my hands. She smiled wider than usual. "Busy night?" she asked. I didn't answer. On the kitchen counter sat my laptop, open to YouTube Studio. A video was rendering, title already set, thumbnail already chosen, my face mid-scream, eyes blurred, mouth distorted like I was being pulled apart by invisible hands, scheduled for midnight. I closed the laptop. Mrs. Holloway didn't stop humming. The plan, if you can even call it that, formed in fragments. I knew I couldn't leave at night. I knew the house watched me. I knew the car keys were never left unattended. But I also knew one thing: they didn't bother hiding anymore. They liked when I tried. Failure made good content. So I waited for the afternoon drive to town. Same routine. Same road that didn't exist on maps. Same fake normalcy. Mr. Holloway drove this time. He talked about analytics, retention rates, how fear worked better when the subject didn't understand the rules of the game. I watched the trees instead, counted turns. When we passed the McDonald's, I saw something new taped to the window. A missing person flyer. Black and white. Grainy photo. It was me. Different clothes. Shorter hair. Dated 3 years ago. Before I ever joined YouTube. I didn't say anything. The escape happened in a Starbucks bathroom. I locked myself in a stall and climbed onto the toilet, pushing up into the ceiling tiles like I'd seen in a movie once. My fingers scraped insulation. Dust filled my mouth. I pulled myself up, heart screaming, and crawled through the dark. I don't know how long I crawled. The space stretched and bent like it didn't want to let me go. Eventually, I dropped down into an alley behind the building, gasping, hands shaking so badly I could barely stand. I ran. No plan, no direction, just away. The town changed the farther I went. Stores repeated. Same barbershop. Same cracked sidewalk. Same woman walking her dog, looping past me every few minutes, smiling like she recognized me. My phone buzzed non-stop. Notifications flooding in. Live chat. Open. Don't stop now. We're with you. I ducked into a bus station and hid behind a vending machine. That's when I realized the cameras weren't following me anymore. They were waiting. The station TV flickered to life. My channel filled the screen. A live feed. Me. Running. Same clothes. Same panic. But the background wasn't the bus station. It was the house. Basement stairs behind him. The boy on screen turned toward the camera and spoke clearly, calmly. He doesn't think this is part of it yet. The chat exploded. Donations poured in. I felt hands grab my shoulders. Real hands. A security guard. Normal guy. Tired eyes. Coffee breath. "You okay, kid?" he asked. I almost cried. Words tumbled out of me. foster home, dark web, basement, copies of me. The god's expression shifted, not to concern, but to something else. Recognition. "Oh," he said softly, "you're one of those." He tapped his earpiece. "They've got a live one." That's when the bus station lights went out. I woke up restrained, not tied, not chained, pinned. The walls around me were covered in screens. Every angle of the house, every room, every hallway, multiple versions of me, moving through them, overlapping, desynced, some laughing, some crying, some completely still. Mr. Holloway stood in front of me, adjusting a camera on a tripod. "You really gave us a scare," he said. Audience retention spiked. Mrs. Holloway knelt in front of me and brushed dirt from my cheek like a loving parent. "Escapes are tricky," she said gently. "They work best when they fail." She leaned in close, whispering so only I could hear. "You're not the first version of you to try." Behind her, a door opened, and I saw how many versions there really were. I learned the truth in pieces, the way you learn something unbearable, your brain breaking it apart so it doesn't kill you all at once. They didn't keep me restrained long. They never do. Restraints are for people who still think their bodies belong to them. I was led into a room I hadn't seen before. No windows, no screens, just a circle of chairs bolted to the floor, each one occupied. Not all of them were alive in the way you'd expect. Some breathed, some blinked, some stared forward with eyes that had given up trying to close. They all looked like me, not identical, not clones, variations, hair longer, face thinner, one with a broken nose that never healed right, one whose hands wouldn't stop trembling, fingers twitching like they were still holding something invisible. Each chair had a small plaque at the base. Version 3, discontinued. Version 7, poor audience response. Version 12, too self-aware. I didn't see a plaque for me. Not yet. Mr. Holloway stood behind me, hands resting lightly on my shoulders like a proud coach. "This is where you understand your value," he said. "You're not a victim. You're a format." One of the versions turned his head toward me, slowly, painfully. "They don't let you die," he whispered. "They let you end. Here's what they don't tell you about the dark web. It isn't chaos. It's structure, communities, investors, metrics. What the Holloways ran wasn't a house. It was a node. One branch of a network that sourced children nobody would look for, shaped them into content, and fed them into an audience that craved authenticity more than anything else. Fear you couldn't fake. Breaks you couldn't act. When a version stopped performing, when they got boring, numb, or too defiant, they weren't killed. They were archived, sometimes recycled, sometimes repurposed, sometimes replaced. Mrs. Holloway brought me a glass of water and waited until I drank before speaking. "Your escape attempt tested incredibly well," she said, "but viewers are craving closure." She slid something across the table. A script. My name at the top. Not my username. My real name. The final video. Confession style. Static camera. Tears encouraged, but not required. Gratitude mandatory. I was supposed to thank them. The family. The audience. The ones who stayed until the end. At the bottom was a note in red ink. "You may ad-lib, but sincerity performs best." I refused. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just said no. That was my last mistake. They didn't punish me right away. They just let time happen. Days passed without sleep, without food sometimes. Other times, they fed me until I was sick. They showed me clips, Other versions who'd refused at first, then complied. Not because they were broken, but because they were rewritten. They let me watch comments scroll by in real time. This one feels fake. Bring back the old energy. He's not grateful enough. One by one, the chairs in the circle emptied. Not violently, quietly. A version would be taken away, and the room would feel slightly larger, like reality adjusting to their absence. Then there were only two of us left. Me, and the one with the sewn mouth. He looked better now, healthier. His stitches were gone. They picked me, he said calmly. I tested highest. He smiled. Not wide, not wrong, just tired. I get to keep going. The filming room was dressed to look like a bedroom. My bedroom. They'd recreated it perfectly. Every scuff, every shadow, even the way the light hit the wall at night. The camera was already rolling when they sat me down. No countdown, no action, just me. I stared into the lens, hands folded, heart quiet, in the way it gets right before something irreversible. And then I realized something. They needed me to finish it. Not a copy, not a version. The audience could tell. So I smiled, and I told my story. I thanked the Holloways. I thanked the viewers. I talked about how lost I'd been, how lucky I was to be chosen. I cried at the right moments. I laughed once, softly, like it slipped out by accident. I made it perfect. When they stopped recording, Mr. Holloway applauded. Mrs. Holloway wiped a tear. Beautiful, she whispered. You're ready. They left me alone with the camera. That's when I did the one thing they hadn't planned for. I uploaded everything, the raw files, the archives, the versions, the scripts, the room with the chairs, the rules, the network. I scheduled it to go live everywhere, at once. The house reacted like a living thing in pain. Lights flickered, walls groaned. Somewhere below me, something screamed, not in anger, but in fear. I didn't wait to see what happened next. I ran. I don't remember how I got out. I don't remember the road. I remember waking up in a hospital, dehydrated, under a different name. They said I'd been found wandering near a highway, miles from anything. No foster records, no Holloways, no house. My channel, gone. Every trace scrubbed, every upload replaced with re-uploads, cleaned, edited, sanitized. My face blurred, my voice pitched down. The story turned into fiction, an ARG, a cautionary tale. People say it's fake now. They say it was just content, just a story. But sometimes, late at night, I'll open YouTube and see a recommended video. New channel. No profile picture. Title always the same. I record paranormal videos on YouTube. And in the comments, buried deep, there's one that never gets deleted. Rule 1 still applies. Don't leave your room. Especially when we knock. If you're reading this all the way to the end, congratulations. You performed exactly how they wanted. There's a dark side of TikTok we aren't supposed to see. If you find the TikTok leaked files on the dark web, do not search pending moderation. Alright, I don't even know where to begin with this. I don't usually post on Reddit, and I damn sure never expected to be writing something like this. But I've been freaking out ever since this happened, and I can't exactly go to the cops with, hey, I found some haunted TikTok videos on the dark web, and now I think someone's watching me. This all started about 3 weeks ago. I'm a 21-year-old college dropout, doing freelance tech stuff from my mom's basement. Yes, real original. And I spend a lot of time online. Like, A lot. TikTok, Discord, Reddit, X, formerly Twitter, but it'll always be Twitter to me. YouTube, my daily bread. But I also have a bad habit of poking into the darker corners of the internet. You know, the type of stuff YouTubers like Nexpo or Wendigoon make videos about. Creepy args, weird unlisted videos, cursed live streams, all that. But nothing I've seen compares to this. I'd heard about TikTok leaked archives from a Discord server I joined, one of those invite-only tech communities that talk about unreleased apps, banned content, etc. One user, name was at Grit Wrists, dropped this weird .onion link in the chat. No context. Just said, don't open this unless you want to ruin your algorithm forever. So obviously, I opened it. I used Tails OS, VPN stacked on VPN, full dark web setup because I'm not stupid. The link led to a basic landing page, just a black screen, white text in a monospace font. No graphics, no loading animation, just, welcome to Shadow Talk, the real feed, updated nightly. And underneath that, there was a single button, enter feed. My curiosity had already eaten through my better judgment at that point. I clicked. The videos that loaded weren't like your usual TikTok. No filters, no dances, no thirst traps or comedy skits. This feed looked like security cam footage, dash cams, drones, hidden GoPros. Some looked like they were filmed in places like Starbucks bathrooms or parking garages behind McDonald's. Places I've been, places we all go. But it was the third video that made my stomach twist. It started like this. You see a teenage girl, maybe 15 or 16, sitting in her bedroom, string lights on the wall, posters of Billie Eilish and Jungkook. She's doing a GRWM, get ready with me, putting on eyeliner, giggling at something on her phone. But there's no music, no captions, no hashtags, just raw, scratchy audio and an occasional buzz, like a phone vibrating behind the mic. She keeps glancing at her window. At first, I thought she was just checking the light or something, but the more I watched, the more I noticed her expression starting to shift. She went from playful and bubbly to quiet. Her hands started shaking. At exactly 1:44 into the video, she whispers, "He's here again." Then the screen glitches. It flickers like an old VHS for half a second, and the camera angle changes. It's no longer on her. It's outside her house, looking into her window, like someone holding a phone camera just behind a bush. You can see her inside. Same outfit, same lighting. She's crying now. The video ends without warning, cuts to black. No outro, no username. Just a single line of text appears at the bottom. Pending moderation 00003-XG. That label shows up on every video. I kept watching, and they got worse. One showed a guy walking into an airport Starbucks, sitting down with his phone. He scrolls through Instagram, checks YouTube, completely normal. Then, about 5 minutes in, the camera zooms. Not his phone camera. The video. Like someone's watching him from behind a terminal wall, filming from a high angle, maybe security feed. You see this other figure walk past him 3 times. Hoodie, face turned away, phone out. No one else reacts. He looks up, right at the camera, like he knows. The video ends with him looking directly into the lens, mouthing something I couldn't make out, but it looked like "please stop." That video had the same text. Pending moderation 0009AG. At this point, I should have logged off, but I didn't. Of course I didn't. I stayed up all night watching more of these clips, one after another, each more unhinged than the last. Some barely even had people in them, just quiet neighborhoods at 3 a.m., looping footage of someone knocking on doors and waiting behind parked cars. The audio in one had a child's voice counting slowly in the background. 7, 8, 9. Where are you hiding? And I swear to God, the street in that video looked exactly like the one I used to live on in Illinois. I took a screenshot of that frame and ran it through Google Lens, and it matched an address just 2 miles from where I grew up. I haven't lived there in over a decade. How the hell did they? Anyway, after maybe 15 videos, the site booted me. No warning, just a red screen. You have reached the daily limit. Return tomorrow. And I swear my speakers hissed when the screen changed. Like high frequency static, just for a second. I ripped my headphones off. Thought it was in my head. Then my actual phone lit up. No number. Just unknown caller. I didn't pick up. I've seen enough horror movies. Next morning, everything felt off. My phone's battery was draining faster. My YouTube suggestions were filled with weird low-view videos with names like Sleeping Beauty, Short Re-Upload, Mirror Angle, and they had pixelated thumbnails that looked like still shots of my neighborhood. One TikTok had a thumbnail that looked like it was filmed inside my local McDonald's, the one I go to late night with my cousin after we leave Planet Fitness. I clicked it. It was just 10 seconds of the dining area. Empty, silent, no music. At the very end of the clip, the camera pans, fast, and freezes on a reflection in the glass. Someone sitting in the corner booth, holding a phone. I couldn't make out their face, but I could tell 2 things. They were wearing the same shirt I was wearing in my last Instagram post. They were staring right at me. I deleted the app, uninstalled my browser, scrubbed everything, but it didn't help. The TikTok started showing up on Instagram Reels. I got a DM from an account with a name like xxxshdduo.exe. No followers, no posts, just a message. Pending moderation 00U. When I opened my eyes the next morning, I was already sweating, like I'd been running in my sleep. The taste in my mouth was metal, dry, sharp, and I could hear this faint hum. Not in my ears, not in the room, inside my head, like a distant TV that's always on, tuned to static. I checked my phone. Battery, 2%. Time, 4:44. No missed calls, no notifications. Except, there was a video in my drafts. TikTok was uninstalled, right? I wiped it clean last night. Even ran a full boot scan with malware bytes and Norton layered up like armor. But there it was, somehow reinstalled, with one video, drafted at 2:37 a.m. I didn't film anything. I don't sleepwalk. I don't black out. But when I played it, I felt my hands go ice cold. The video was shaky, low angle, like it had been recorded from the floor. And it was recording me, sleeping. The audio was muffled breathing. No filters, no music, no editing. Just me, curled up, mouth open slightly, and in the very corner of the video frame, movement, barely visible. A hand, pale and twitchy, pulling back into the shadow under my fucking bed. Not crawling, not moving like a human, like it was retracting, like a reflex. It had the same label as before, pending moderation 0013-RK. I dropped the phone. Literally. It hit the floor so hard, I thought I'd crack the screen. Let me tell you something that I haven't told anyone. And I mean no one. Not my mom, not my Discord crew, not even my ex, who knew all my skeletons. When I was 10, I used to hear scraping under my bed at night. Thought it was mice. My dad said it was the box spring. It went on for months. Eventually, I stopped sleeping in my room and started using the couch. We moved 2 years later, and I never thought about it again until that moment, until that fucking draft video. I flipped the lights on, grabbed the baseball bat I keep near my desk. I'm not a tough guy. I just used to play shortstop, and checked under the bed. Nothing. No weird crawl space, no marks, no camera, except wedged behind one of the legs, I found a plastic button, like off a coat, navy blue, cracked in half. I don't own anything like that. It smelled like wet wood. I couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. I went outside to get some air, sat down at the bus stop, outside the local Waffle House. Still dark, no cars, no people, just me, alone under a flickering street lamp, and this pressure in my head that felt like it was coming from every direction at once. Then my phone buzzed. Instagram again. Another DM. Same creepy account. x-x-x-hdw.exe. But this time, it sent me a link. It was a Google Drive folder. Open access. No name, no description. Just one folder. You seem interested. Inside, there were dozens of videos. Not TikToks. Just raw files. .mp4 format, no filters, no timestamps, and these weren't like the ones from the archive. These were personal, way too personal. The first one was a video of a guy walking his dog in some suburban neighborhood. Looked like Georgia or Alabama, somewhere humid. He's just vibing, earbuds in, no clue. The camera follows him from across the street. At one point, the cameraman gets so close that you can see the paws on this guy's neck. And then, a knife. The blade flashes once in the reflection of a mailbox. You never see it happen directly. But the next cut shows the dog barking like crazy at an empty street. The guy is just gone. And the folder's next file. It's a video of the same dog, dead, wrapped in a shower curtain. The camera zooms in slowly on its eye, which is still open. Another video. This one filmed in a fucking Chuck E. Cheese. At least I think it is. Those creepy animatronics are frozen mid-smile, and the restaurant's empty. Except one kid. He's sitting in the ball pit, just staring at the camera. Not scared, just blank. The lights strobe. For a second, you can see someone sitting behind the kid, head tilted way too far to one side, like their neck's broken, but they're still smiling. And then it glitches. The video stutters and loops. The same 3 seconds, over and over. Kid turns. Someone whispers. Lights flash red. Frame freezes. And in the next file, a video from a drone, filming a backyard party. Looked like teenagers, just hanging out, drinking liqueur and blasting yate. Totally normal, until the drone dives straight into the party. Like it's not a drone anymore. Like it has a mind of its own. The screen glitches mid-air, and suddenly, it's filming from the ground. You see chaos. People running, screaming, someone yelling, "What the fuck is that?" And then the feed goes black. The last frame of the video? Just the caption, "You can't stop the feed. Pending moderation 0019-ZX. I couldn't take it. I slammed my laptop shut, walked to 7-Eleven like a zombie, and bought one of those energy drinks that makes your heart feel like it's about to break up with you. Tried to calm down, tried to scroll normal TikTok. Big mistake. My feed was wrecked. The For You page had been replaced with glitched usernames like @NoEyesHere and @buried.alive.reposts. All of them had millions of likes, but 0 comments. One of the clips just showed a live stream of a ceiling fan. You could hear someone breathing hard in the background. Another was footage of a gym shower, steam thick, but a dark shape kept walking past the mirror. It was subtle, almost like a visual trick, but once you saw it, You couldn't unsee it. I backed out and deleted the app again. Factory reset my phone. That night, I left all the lights on. I dragged a chair into the middle of my room and just sat, baseball bat in hand. I watched every angle, checked behind every door. At 3:26 a.m., my phone, which should have been off, lit up. No ringtone, just the screen flashing like it was getting a call. But the weird thing, it was using the TikTok UI. The call was coming through TikTok. It showed a faceless silhouette as the caller photo. Text underneath said, "Go check your basement." I froze. I live with my mom. She was out of town that week, visiting my aunt in Miami. I was alone. I didn't want to go down there, but something in me couldn't resist. It was like being on autopilot. I walked slowly, every stair creaking like it was screaming. Basement was pitch black. I used my phone flashlight and scanned the room. Nothing, until I saw it. On the concrete wall, in what looked like ash, someone had smeared, "Pending moderation 00-U. Pending moderation 00-U. Pending moderation 00-U. Over and over, rows and rows, and underneath it, carved into the drywall with something jagged. "You are not a viewer. You are a participant. This story isn't over. I'm not safe. And neither are you." If you've ever scrolled past something that felt wrong on your feed, you might already be tagged. I didn't sleep after seeing that message on the basement wall. I didn't even sit down. I stood in my room until the sun came up, lights on, curtains open, like daylight was some kind of shield. My brain kept replaying the words participant and moderation over and over, like they were stuck on a loop. It felt less like fear and more like being studied, like something had finished watching and was now waiting. Around 7:12 a.m., my mom texted me a picture from Miami. Blue sky, palm trees, Starbucks cup in her hand. Normal life. The kind of normal that suddenly feels fake when you've seen behind the curtain. I almost replied with, "I think someone broke into the house and wrote threats on the basement wall." But I didn't. Because how do you explain something that doesn't behave like reality? Instead, I did the one thing I swore I wouldn't do. I went back to the feed, not through the dark web this time. I didn't open Tor. I didn't use a VPN. I just typed TikTok.com into my regular browser. The site loaded instantly, but it wasn't TikTok. The logo was off. Same shape, same colors, but warped, like it had been remembered wrong by something that never used it. The For You page wasn't vertical, scrolling anymore. It was a grid, 9 videos, all paused, all thumbnails, different angles of places I recognized. My bus stop, the gym locker room, the McDonald's drive-thru near campus, the Starbucks by the interstate with a cracked bathroom mirror, my house. I hovered my mouse over one, and text appeared beneath it. Live preview enabled. I clicked the Starbucks one. It wasn't a recording. It was now. The camera angle was high, tucked into a corner where the ceiling meets the wall. The morning rush was in full swing. Baristas shouting orders, milk steaming, people staring into their phones like zombies. And then I saw her. A woman in a gray hoodie, standing near the pickup counter, not moving, not on her phone, just staring straight ahead, eyes unfocused. Everyone else blurred slightly when they moved, but she stayed crisp, sharp, like the camera preferred her. She slowly turned her head and looked straight at me. The video froze. My screen flickered, and a small window popped up in the corner. Webcam access request. I don't remember clicking allow. I just remember seeing my own face appear on the screen, pale, eyes bloodshot, mouth slightly open, and behind me, there was movement. Not a shape, not a person, a distortion, like the air itself was bending. The window vanished. The Starbucks feed resumed. The woman was gone. I slammed my laptop shut so hard my desk rattled. That's when I realized my phone had been vibrating non-stop. Not calls, notifications, dozens of them, hundreds, from platforms I hadn't used in years. Snapchat, Tumblr, an old Facebook account I forgot existed, even a MySpace email address I made when I was 12. Every notification was the same message, copied and pasted across different apps, different usernames, different profile pictures, some of them my own. We saw you watching. I ran outside, didn't even put shoes on, just bolted down the street like I was trying to outrun my own shadow. I didn't know where I was going. I just needed people, noise, witnesses. I ended up at the mall. It was crowded, food court packed, kids screaming, music blasting, the smell of pretzels and grease and cheap perfume. I sat down hard on a bench near a Disney store and tried to breathe. For about 5 minutes, it worked. Then the screens turned on. Every TV in the mall, advertising displays, menu boards, those massive LED walls went black at the same time. The chatter died down as people noticed. A kid started crying. Someone laughed nervously, and then the video started. It was filmed from a first-person perspective. Someone walking through a suburban house. Slow footsteps. The camera kept glancing down at their hands. Their hands were covered in something dark. Not dripping, not fresh. Old. Dried. The person walked past framed family photos, past a mirror, and for a split second, when the camera passed the mirror, I saw the face. It wasn't blurred. It wasn't masked. It was me. Someone screamed. The screens flickered, and the video cut to text. Content under review. Do not look away. People started panicking. Mall security was yelling. Phones were out, recording, streaming. But when I checked my own phone, there was nothing. No signal. No data. Just one app, open on its own. TikTok. A live stream. Viewer count. 1,347,229. Title. Perspective test. Subject active. The chat was moving too fast to read, but certain messages kept getting pinned to the top. He doesn't know yet. This one reacts better than the others. Don't let him leave. I felt hands on my shoulders. Security. Mall cops. They were talking, but their voices sounded far away, underwater. One of them leaned close and whispered, "Why did you do it?" I asked him what he meant. His face went blank, completely blank, like someone had wiped the expression off. He let go of me and walked away without another word. Everyone else started doing the same thing. People freezing mid-step, staring, smiling just a little too wide. I ran. I don't remember how I got home. I don't remember unlocking the door. I just remember being back in my room, door barricaded, blind shut, heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. My laptop turned on by itself. New window. Plain black background. White text. Moderation complete. Below it, a list of names. Hundreds of them. Some crossed out, some highlighted. Mine wasn't crossed out. Yet. Another line appeared. Phase 3 requires consent. 2 buttons popped up. Accept role. Decline and be removed. Before I could think, before I could even move, a final message appeared underneath. Removal is permanent. I heard something behind the wall. Not scratching, not knocking. Breathing. Slow. Calm. Patient. Like it knew I'd choose wrong. I didn't click either button. I just sat there, staring at the screen, listening to the breathing inside my wall. It wasn't loud. It wasn't rushed. It sounded comfortable, like whatever was back there had all the time in the world and knew exactly how this would end. The cursor moved on its own. No joke. I wasn't touching the mouse. My hands were shaking in my lap, nails digging into my palms hard enough to hurt. The cursor drifted slowly, deliberately, past decline and be removed, and hovered over accept roll. That's when my phone rang. My mum. I answered instantly, almost crying from relief. "Mom," I said, my voice cracking, "you need to come home. Now, someone's in the house. I think..." She cut me off. Her voice sounded wrong, not distorted, not robotic, just empty. "Honey," she said calmly, "you always did like watching things." My blood went cold. "What?" I whispered. "You used to sit so close to the TV," she continued, like she was remembering something fondly. "Remember, even when the news got bad, you never looked away." I asked her where she was. She laughed. Behind her voice, I could hear something else. Not traffic, not wind. A low murmur, like a crowd, whispering over each other. She said, "We can see you so clearly now." The call ended. My laptop chimed. Role accepted. Welcome to moderation. The breathing behind the wall stopped. The wall itself shifted, not cracked, not broke. It bulged slightly, like something pressing against it from the inside, testing the material. Then it relaxed, like it decided it didn't need to come out. Not yet. The screen changed. I wasn't on my desktop anymore. I was inside something that looked like a control room made of code. Black background, white lines dividing sections, dozens of live video feeds playing at once, all muted by default, each one labeled with a familiar tag, pending moderation. I recognized places immediately. A parking garage in Tokyo, a subway platform in New York, a beachside cafe in Barcelona, a Walmart in the middle of nowhere, fluorescent lights buzzing, regular people, real people, living their lives, unaware they were being watched from angles that didn't make sense. Too high, too close, too intimate. A panel opened on the right side of the screen. Content flags. Awareness detected. Resistance. Probable. Audience retention. High below. That was a prompt. Select action. Options appeared under each video feed. Allow escalate archive. I clicked on one at random. A guy sitting alone in a movie theater, halfway through some animated kids movie. Bright colors, happy music. Disney logo still faintly visible on the screen in front of him. He was laughing at something, totally relaxed. Under his feed, the system highlighted awareness probable. A timer started counting down. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I tried to close the window. Nothing happened. Tried unplugging the laptop. Screen stayed on. Another message appeared. Moderators do not intervene. They curate. The timer hit 0. The feed didn't cut. Instead, the camera angle changed. It was now behind the guy's seat, close enough that you could see the small scar behind his ear. The theater around him was empty, completely empty. He turned around slowly. His smile faded. The lights went out. The feed automatically switched to archived. I threw up into a trash can next to my desk. My hands were numb. My head felt stuffed with cotton. I started clicking allow on everything. I didn't care. I just wanted it to stop, to not be my fault. Some feeds disappeared when I clicked allow. Others stayed. One feed opened on its own. A bedroom, dark, LED lights glowing purple, posters on the wall, a teenage girl sitting on her bed, scrolling on her phone. She looked up. directly at the camera. "I know you're there," she said. My name appeared on the screen. User requesting interaction. Before I could react, my webcam turned on again. My face appeared in the corner of her feed. Her eyes widened. "You're real," she whispered. I tried to speak. No sound came out. She started crying, saying she didn't do anything wrong, that she just clicked a link someone sent her, that she thought it was a joke. New options appeared. Escalate. High engagement. Escalate. Final. My cursor hovered. I felt something in my chest shift. Not fear anymore. Something colder. Detached. Like I was watching myself from a distance, making choices with someone else's hands. A system message flashed. Audience response predicted. Positive. I clicked escalate. High engagement. The feed zoomed in on her face. The audio sharpened. Her breathing got louder. Faster. She started begging, not screaming. Begging quietly, like she knew screaming wouldn't help. The chat exploded on the side of the screen. Emojis, fire icons, laughing faces, view count climbing. I slammed the laptop shut. The sound didn't stop. I could still hear her. From inside the room, from inside the walls, from inside my head. I screamed and ran out of the house. Didn't grab my phone, didn't grab my keys, just ran barefoot down the street, past neighbors' houses, past parked cars, until my lungs burned. I ended up at a hospital parking lot, collapsed behind an ambulance bay, shaking, trying to convince myself this was all a breakdown, stress, sleep deprivation, a psychotic episode. The automatic doors slid open. A TV in the waiting room was playing the news. The anchor was smiling too wide. "Breaking story tonight," she said, looking straight into the camera. "A new form of entertainment is taking the internet by storm. Viewers describe it as raw, immersive, and impossible to look away." Behind her, the screen showed blurred clips. Clips I recognized. She continued, "Early testers report feeling personally involved in the content. Experts say this level of engagement could redefine social media forever." Her eyes flicked downward, just for a second, like she was reading something only she could see. She smiled again. "And now, a message from our newest moderator." Every screen in the room went black. Then one word appeared. "Me." If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it out clean. And neither did the feed. No one noticed when I walked back into my house. No lights turned on. No porch cams pinged. No dogs barked. The world outside stayed. Still, like it had agreed to hold its breath while I crossed the threshold into the final act. The door didn't creak. It welcomed me. The screens were already waiting. Every device in the house, TV, laptop, iPad, even the old digital picture frame my aunt gave me when I was 13, was displaying the same thing. Not a video, a mirror, live. From my room, my chair sat empty, but the reflection rippled. Not like a camera feed, like water, like something was beneath the surface, breathing. And then it happened. My room began to broadcast. A new live stream popped up on TikTok. I didn't start it. No app was open. My name wasn't listed, but the viewer count climbed. One viewer, then 100, then 7,000, then 1.3 million. No title, no hashtags, no username, just a caption. Moderator feed, subject is awake. The camera was inside me. That's not an exaggeration. It was my eyes broadcasting. Wherever I looked, the stream followed. And on the feed, I could see messages flying by. "Is this real? This dude's glitching FR. He's breaking it. No way this is still a person." The comments weren't from trolls. They weren't from bots. They were from watchers. Some of them were excited. Others were scared. A few were disappointed. He's taking too long. When's the escalation? Boring. Switch feeds. I tried to stop moving, held my breath, but the stream didn't pause. It kept going, recording every twitch, every shift in my pupil dilation, every spike in my heart rate. Something pinged behind my eyes. A voice, low and ragged, whispered inside my skull. Audience retention is dropping. My vision flickered, like a camera lens struggling to focus. Every time I blinked, the world got darker, not less light, less real. The walls softened into static. Furniture melted into shapes. Shadows got longer, but they weren't cast by anything. They were watching too. I stumbled into the bathroom, flicked the light. The mirror showed nothing. Not my face. Not the room. Just a message burned into the glass, in black, rotting font. Acceptable losses, 7,105,823. Below it, a second line was being typed live, letter by letter. Next cut, 7,105,824. I wiped the mirror. My reflection returned, but it wasn't alone. Behind me, crawling from the sink, was a hand. Thin, paper pale, long fingers bent backward like they'd been broken too many times and just stopped caring. It gripped the porcelain like a child climbing out of a pool, and then another hand, and another. I ran, not out of the house, into the basement. I don't know why. Some part of me still thought there might be a way out, some escape hatch, some kill switch. But the basement wasn't a room anymore. It was a feed room. Every inch of wall was covered in screens. Thousands, tiled like scales on a beast. Some were cracked, others played upside down. A few weren't even video. They just showed names. Your names, usernames, tags, phone contacts, Instagram handles, real names scraped from school yearbooks, DMV databases, old dead social media platforms you thought were gone. They scrolled slowly. Pending moderation. Scheduled for escalation. Unresponsive. Force initiated. I saw faces I knew. My cousin's friend, the one who vanished after live streaming in the woods. A girl from my high school whose TikTok went viral and then was never heard from again. A kid I used to watch stream horror games on Twitch. They were all there, their lost expressions frozen on loop. Each screen played their final 10 seconds. One showed a guy mouthing, "I didn't mean to," before something yanked him backward into the dark. Another just showed the view from a camera rolling downstairs, end over end, until it landed upside down, facing a pair of bare feet. My knees buckled. I crawled to the center of the room, where a chair sat bolted to the floor. A headset was resting on it. Black, sleek, fused cables that pulsed like veins. The feed was waiting. The message on every screen synced into one. "Please proceed to final moderation." I screamed. I ripped cords. I smashed glass. I tore down screens until my hands bled. But it didn't change anything. The room breathed. The basement had lungs. Behind the walls, something began to whisper in unison, voices in sync, like a choir that never needed air. Moderator feed offline. Viewer feed active. Viewer feed active. Viewer feed active. My phone rang. I didn't answer. It answered me. A voice, wet and glitching like audio underwater, said, "Thank you for participating." Then silence. All the screens blinked. One screen turned on. Just one. It showed a girl, maybe 13, sitting on her bedroom floor, surrounded by plushies, laughing into her phone, trying to do a stupid filter challenge. Then the camera angle changed. It was from inside her closet. The chat exploded. Viewers cheering, likes pouring in. The last thing I saw before the basement blacked out was the chat pinning one comment. He's watching too now. You think this ends with a jump scare. You think I say, don't go on the dark web, or be careful what you watch. It doesn't work like that. I'm not telling you this to warn you. I'm telling you this because you've already been added. You read the caption. You scrolled this far. You engaged. And the feed saw your name. The stream's already live. Check your phone. See which part of you they're watching. Pending moderation. 0, 0, 0, 0, dash, you. You are not safe. No one is. And your final feed is about to start.